So let's simplify an expression by following the order of operations. Remember in class we discussed that the order of operations, which you've usually learned as PEMDAS, that the P, which stands for parentheses, can actually represent any sort of grouping symbol. So we talked about GEMDAS. So any sort of grouping such as absolute value bars or radical signs, those all need to be simplified before you can go on and do the other operations. Now there's a difference between using these symbols as grouping items or simply as a mathematical operator. So let's take a look here at our absolute value bars. There's actually a group of numbers in here. So this is being used as a grouping device. And this radical sign here, or square root of 16 sign, is actually an operator. There's not a group of numbers under here that needs to be evaluated. So I'm going to start here and just perform this operation because that's the only item that's actually a grouping term. So I'm going to rewrite the problem with all of these numbers still in them, my huge fraction bar, and all of my other values unchanged, except for the absolute value of 1 minus 5. So the 4 from the outside remains, but the absolute value of 1 minus 5, which is negative 4, the absolute value of negative 4 is actually positive 4. So I have to remove the absolute value bars because I've done the absolute value. However, I need to include parentheses because it's still an operator of multiplication. And I'm going to leave this operation here of the square root of 16 down here because I haven't actually gotten to that part of the order of operations yet. So this was a grouping symbol which I have simplified and evaluated. And now in my next step, I'm going to evaluate these powers, right? Powers or roots of any sort can be done in the exponent stage. So 3 minus 4 remains, and my fraction will now contain an 8 and a minus sign, because remember, that's the opposite of 2 to the third power. So I leave my minus sign here, and I evaluate 2 to the third power. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. And then I'm going to leave this here, even though I know I could do it, but I'm still concentrating on my exponent stage in the order. So 2 times the square root of 16 would be 2 times 4. The square root of 16 is 4. Now from here, I'm going to start doing all of my multiplication and division from left to right. Now I know that this is a division sign, but I actually can't do that until I've done all of this up here in the numerator. So I'm going to take 2 steps to complete that. Let's see what we get here. 8 minus 8, and 4 times 4 is 16, and my denominator will be 8. Now, before I do this division, which is supposed to come first, I have to do all of this group in the numerator before I can actually divide by 8. So let's rewrite our problem here. 3 minus 4 times this whole quantity. 8 minus 8 is 0, and 0 plus 16 is 16, and now 16 divided by 8 can be performed. So 3 minus 4, and this reduces, or simplifies, I should say, simplifies to 2. So 3 minus 8, the answer is negative 5. Pretty impressive. This entire ridiculously long question actually simplifies down to the value of negative 5. Now you don't have to write exactly the same steps as me, but you should be generally performing these operations in the same order. Let's take a look at one more question. It's pretty intimidating, but I know we can do it. So let's see here, I have some subtraction, I have a quantity, which has lots of grouping symbols. I see a group here, I see a group here, and I see a group here. So I've got a lot to do in this first step. But actually, one of these groups contains an operation or an operative which comes later on in the order. But in order to complete this group, I would have to calculate those exponents first. So I'm going to keep my 8, and I'm going to rewrite my entire, oh, I should make that a little bit bigger because that fraction is quite large. So here we go. All right, I'm going to leave my 2, I'm going to leave my minus sign, and I'm going to evaluate 5 minus 3, which is 2, and the absolute value of that is 2. And I'm going to leave my plus 2, and I'm going to evaluate this grouping here. 6 minus 1 squared is 6 minus 1, right? This simplifies to 1. 6 minus 1 is 5. Oops, I forgot to put that square sign. And now to evaluate this grouping here, the square root of 18 minus 2 is 16. So the square root of 16 divided by 2. Oh, I didn't even notice we had a complex fraction. We actually have a fraction inside a fraction. But the numbers are small, so this is pretty manageable. All right, so now, before I can tackle this whole group in the parentheses, I got to go through the numerator and perform all of my order of operations, and then I got to go to my denominator, perform all of its operations, and then I can simplify this fraction. So let's leave this alone out here, and let's take a look at my numerator. So my numerator has subtraction, addition, and multiplication, so I'm going to go in the order of the operations, which requires me to do this first. So I'm going to leave my 2, I'm going to leave my minus 2, and I'm going to do 2 times 5, which is plus 2 times 5, which is plus 10. And then my square root of 16 is 4, so this evaluates to 4, right? So I'm going to do 4 divided by 2, and that's how I'm going to start simplifying this. So I'm kind of skipping a couple of steps here, but I'm expecting that from you now as well. So I'm going to leave my 8, leave my minus sign. Now I'm ready to do my addition and subtraction up here in my numerator. 2 minus 2 is 0. 0 plus 10 is 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5. All right, looks like we only got 2 more things to do. Evaluate my power, minus, and this is the only thing I'm squaring. I'm not squaring this minus sign because it is outside the grouping symbol. So 5 to the second power is 25, and 8 minus 25 is negative 17. Whew. That was pretty intimidating looking here at the beginning. But it actually came out to equal negative 17, which isn't bad at all. Oh, I changed page. So this whole expression is equal to negative 17. Pretty cool. All right, good luck with your homework.